Hello and welcome to the Home Designer 2017 Kitchen Webinar. My name is Stephanie and I'll be presenting today. I also have Philip here with me on chat to answer any questions you may have throughout this demonstration. Before we begin, I would like to review our go-to system. To set up your audio, please select the mic and speakers option located under the audio mode dialog. Everyone will be muted, so you do not need to worry about setting up a microphone. If you're having trouble hearing me, click this audio sound check link for additional audio controls. And if you don't see this screen, it simply means it's been minimized. Click on the orange button to maximize the screen. If you have questions at any time, feel free to chat those in and Philip will respond. Today I'll be designing in Home Designer Pro. Home Designer Pro is a top program in our Home Designer line. However, we do have different product options to choose from, such as architectural, suite, and interiors. If you do have questions, contact our sales team and we'll be more than happy to assist you. We'll start today by drawing out walls and dimensioning them. I'll create a custom vaulted ceiling with beams. We'll spend the majority of our time designing out cabinets within the program. And then we'll add in some custom shelving and an island. I'll also generate an electrical plan. And then I'll show you some rendering options. We'll generate a materials list, layout sheet. And like I said before, if you do have questions, chat those in and we'll respond to you as we go. So let's begin. I'm going to start by opening up Home Designer Pro. I have a template file open for our kitchen today. We have default tools that appear on top of our screen. On the right, I have my library browser as well as display options. We're going to close out of our library browser as we'll use it a little later in our presentation today. Let's start defining our kitchen space by clicking on our wall tools. So we have different wall options to select between. We can choose between our straight exterior wall, our straight interior wall, a straight foundation wall. We can draw out a pony wall, half wall, or room divider. I'm going to click on my interior wall as this is an interior space, and then I'm just going to click in my plan and click to drag out this wall. And you can see that we have temporary dimensions that appear next to our wall, so we can get pretty close to accurate when we're drawing out those walls. If we want to dimension them, I'll select the wall and then on the dimension that I want to modify. So I'm going to change this to 17 feet 9 inches, and our software thinks in inches. So as you can see, I've placed a foot marker, but I haven't had to indicate my inches as it will automatically adjust. Over on the right, you can see that you can move the wall from the left end, both ends, or move the right end. We're going to keep move right end selected and then hit enter on the keyboard. And now that will adjust. From this view, we can modify our perpendicular dimension as well. So I'm going to click on that dimension and we're going to keep it at 20 feet 10 inches. So I'm just going to add that 0 and then click enter, and our wall will adjust. So let's take a look at what we've designed so far. We have different camera options to choose from. So let's go up to our default tools and we can select between full and floor cameras. This will get us an idea of working on the inside of our home. We can zoom in depth a little bit more easily here. We also have a perspective full overview. This will keep the roof on our structure, a dollhouse view, which will basically be a bird's eye view into our plan, and then a perspective framing overview, which will show the framing of the plan. I'm going to take a dollhouse view first, and by doing this we can see we have flooring that's been automatically placed. We can zoom in. I'm using my mouse with my scroll wheel that's allowing me to zoom closer into my plan. We have molding that's been placed, and then our walls. I can exit out of this view, get back into our plan view, and then I can take a different camera option. So I'm going to take a perspective full overview this time, and I just really want to demonstrate how when 4 walls are connected, we also have a roof that's been added. You have your walls that are appearing here, and then even a foundation has been placed on our structure. Now we are working on just a kitchen today, so I really don't need my foundation. So what we can do is go up to our Build tab. and we'll scroll down to floor. And within our dialog here, we can choose between building a new floor, we can insert a floor, delete the current floor, you can even exchange floors, build a foundation and delete a foundation. I'm going to click delete foundation, and I'm going to get a pop-up here, and it's basically going to state that by clicking OK, it's going to turn off auto rebuild foundation. I'm going to select OK because I'm not concerned with having a foundation for our presentation here. So you can also work with two different views when you're designing. We're going to go up to our window tab and scroll down, and we can tile two views vertically. And now I have my plan view and my perspective view open. I want to change my roof planes first here. And the reason I'm going to do that is because we're going to create a vaulted ceiling. So to do this, I need to grab two of my walls and change them to gable by first clicking on the wall to select it, holding down Control, and clicking on the adjacent wall. If we go down to our Edit toolbar, we have this tool here where we can change to gable walls. So I'm going to click it, and as soon as I click it, you can see in my camera view how our roof has adjusted. So let's now exit out of this view and go to the interior of our structure. I'm going to take another camera view, so we'll go up to our default tools, click on our camera tools, and then we're going to click a full camera. So I'll take this camera in my plan, and all I'm doing is clicking and dragging it out, and now I have a view of the inside of my structure. So let's click Shift F6 on our keyboard. This is actually a shortcut key for tiling two views, and then we'll zoom in over in our plan view. And when we're inside our kitchen, we can see that we have a flat ceiling, and I do want to change this. So to modify our ceiling, we're going to double click within our room to open up our room specification dialog. When I'm in my room specification, I can choose between the room type if I want to modify it and change it. We have different room type options here. You can also name a room, so you can type in and label the room. You can go into your structure panel, and this is where you can modify ceiling heights and floor heights. We're going to go down to our ceiling options, and I'm going to click to remove the ceiling over this room. So we're unselecting it, and then we'll click OK. And now we can see that our ceiling has modified to a cathedral ceiling. Well, I do want to change this, so what we'll do is modify our roof pitch to change our ceiling. So I'm selecting the walls in which the roof plane bears on. So I'll click on the wall, hold Control to click on that other wall, and then we can go down to our Edit toolbar and click to open up the object. This will take us to the wall specification dialog. We have a general panel here as well as a structural panel. I'm concerned with my roof panel. So I'll click on roof. This is where you can modify your roof options. You can click get in here and change the roof type. I'm going to modify our pitch. So it's set by default to 8 and 12, and we're going to click to type in 4 and 12. This will modify the roof pitch. We'll click OK. So we can see that it has modified it to a vault now. So next I want to open up my kitchen for inspiration. So this is my inspiration image of where we're going to head. We've now changed our ceiling, and now we need to add in some of these beams here. So the next step we'll do will be to place some beams, and then we'll start getting in and actually designing out the cabinet items within the kitchen. Let's get back into Pro and open it up. So we need to also open up our library browser now. And the reason I'm doing this is I've actually added in some pre-designed beams, and I discussed in another video on how to create these beams. Since we're opening up our library for the first time, I do want to cover a few different options within Home Designer. So when you purchase a license, you will be able to download our core content, and this is where you can click and add in different library components within your plan. We have different options, fixtures, appliances, etc. to choose from. We'll minimize this. You can also now add in bonus and manufacturer content through Home Designer by going to our website. And these are different catalogs that you can select and purchase and bring them into your plans. We also have a user catalog, and this is a catalog that I've actually designed so that I've basically blocked together different items. I've imported items that I want to use within my plan, and now they're all in one space. So I can go here and grab them quickly without having to shuffle through my different folder options. So I have a beams subcategory created, and I'm going to grab my main beam to place it. So I'm just clicking within my plan. And I've also created a left and a right beam, so I can just grab it from my library, click within my plan. I'm also going to get a pop-up here that it's conflicting with another object. So I'll click yes to accept it and keep it placed there. I can also grab the object that I placed just to verify that it's exactly where I need it. I have a center object tool, so I can go down to my edit toolbar down there and then make sure it's centered right on that beam. I'm going to move it back up to the top, or the edge of my wall I should say, and I'm going to make copies now. So we have a transform replicate tool. This is only available with Home Designer Pro, and it's one of my favorite tools. And the reason I say this is because you can go in within the dialog, click to copy it, and I can specify the number of copies that I want to make here. So right now I'm going to specify 5 copies, and then I'm also going to click to move them. So there's different axes within the program. We're going to actually move these beams along our Y delta. So I'll click here and I'm going to specify -48 inches and we'll click OK. And now our beams will adjust. So I'm going to click to close out of my library browser, and then I want to demonstrate how layer display options work within the software. If you look over at our plan view, you can see that we have roof planes and then we still have our beams that are displaying in this view. So let's go up to our default tools and I'll click to open up my layer display options dialog. Now when you use a component within the program, you can see that a cross will appear, and then if it's displayed you can see a check mark will appear. So right now we can see our cabinets and soffits are being used and displayed. So I'm going to click to make sure or unselect it so that when I click OK we won't see that component anymore. I also want to make sure this is the same with my roof plane, so I'm going to type in roof, and we can see that it's being used and displayed. So I'm going to click to unselect it and then click OK. And now my floor plan view is cleaned up and we can continue on by adding in cabinets. So the next thing I want to do is grab a cabinet and place it in my plan. So I'm going to click on my tool, and then you can place cabinets in 3D and also in our plan view. I'll just click to place that cabinet, and we can even zoom in so we can see a little bit more in detail what our cabinet looks like. So this is a standard cabinet that would come when you purchase the software, but I want to show you that we can make changes to the cabinet, and then we can also modify defaults as well. So if we could double click to open up the cabinet and we would be presented with our base cabinet specification dialog. And here's where you can make changes to a single cabinet. Now I want to show you how this dialog is also used within our defaults. So it's going to be a similar dialog. So right now I'm just going to exit out of this view, and we're going to go up to edit, and then we're going to go down to default settings. And we have an option to choose between different defaults within the program. So under cabinets, I can choose between a general cabinet or even click on my base cabinet. So we'll double click to open it up, and now we can see this base cabinet default is similar to the dialog that I just showed you. Here's where you can specify the height, the width, and the depth of a base cabinet that you'd want to use. I'm going to keep it the same for now, as we can change certain cabinets as we continue on. This is where we can set our countertop thickness and overhang. If you want a backsplash, with most of our home designer programs, it's great to keep the backsplash set. This is where you would control that height. I'm going to remove it because we have a custom backsplash tool that we can use with architectural and professional, and I'll show you later on how we can modify it. So we're going to take the backsplash off by setting this to 0, and then I can click tab. And this is where you can modify the thickness if you wanted to. If you want to change the toe kick, you have control over it here. Box construction is only an option with Home Designer Professional. This is where you can change it to framed or frameless. Our front tab is where you can change different components within our cabinet. We're going to keep the drawer and door set for now, but as we continue on, I'll show you how we can modify the front objects. Door and drawer, this is where you can change different styles within our cabinet. I'm going to get in here and modify the knob that I want to use on my door. So I'll go into library, click on my architectural options, my hardware, cabinet hardware, and I'm going to go to pools, and I'll select a bow pool, and we'll do a suitcase pool. We'll click OK. And then you can also specify where you want this to sit in from the edge as well as down from the top. So I'm going to highlight my dimension here, and we're going to change this to 4.5 and click tab. And as soon as I do that, it's going to update my hardware over in my preview view. So you can also specify or change door hinges, your drawer style. I'm going to change my drawer handle, so I'll get into my library options again, and we can click to expand out our folders. And I'm going to go into pools, and we'll go into cup pools this time, and I'll click on this cup pool, click OK, and it has added it to my cabinet. So you can also change moldings, your fill style, alter materials here, as well as a label. We'll click OK to accept the changes that I've made thus far, and we'll click done. We can see now that our cabinet has been modified. So I'm actually going to delete this cabinet, and I want to show you how we can place a base cabinet with the defaults that we've changed. I'm going to click on my plan view first because that's where we'll place it, then on my base cabinet. And I want to show you how when we take our base cabinet with the defaults we've changed, we can even alter it across cabinets. So when I take a cabinet and I want it to be a corner cabinet, our software will allow us to pull between both walls here, and it's going to adjust it to a corner cabinet. We can also click within our plan view to add another cabinet, and if we zoom in a little bit, we can actually select the cabinet, and we have edit handles where we can adjust even dimensions without having to open up the cabinet. So I can click to pull this out, and it's going to jump to 3 more inches. So I'm going to keep that at 27. And then if I'd like to place another one, I just click again and it'll place that cabinet again. So now let's open up our library browser. A way to open up our library browser using a hotkey is to hold down Control and then click L, and this will bring our library browser back up. I'm going to place a range. So we already have our user catalog open. We can scroll down here and grab my range, and then I can just click here within my plan to place it. I can see that in my view here we're running out of space as we can continue on. So I'm going to click my 3D view, and then I'm just going to rotate around the plan so we can continue looking at our design. And then we'll zoom back out, and I'll continue placing a few more additional base cabinets. So I'll click to grab my cabinet tool again, and then I'm going to click within my plan. And we can also open up the dialog by double clicking on that cabinet, and this is where we can specify like we did within our defaults. I'm going to change the width here on this cabinet to 12 and click tab, and it's going to adjust now. From this view we can also modify different components. So if I double click, this is going to open up my front tab, and I can adjust my door here. if I wanted to delete out an object, for example, I don't want my drawer in this cabinet. So what I can do is just click on the drawer and then click delete, and it will now adjust. So our tools are very flexible, and it's great for designing to be able to just get in there and modify. We'll click OK to accept the change, and then I'm also going to just move it over so that it's right next to my range. Let's add in a few more cabinets here. So I can just click and place that cabinet. We'll keep this one at a 24-inch. And then I'll also get in and place another cabinet, and we're going to modify this one to 27 inches. So I'll just click and pull it out. And then let's place in another cabinet here. It's not selected, so we need to click. And when you come within 3 inches of a wall, it's going to automatically place a filler there. So the filler's already where it needs to be. And so let's get back and rotate in our view just a bit here. And I can see now that I've placed some of my cabinet items. We'll zoom back out and then rotate so I can show you a better view. The left side cabinets need to open properly, so they're opening on the wrong side. So what I can do here is just click on that cabinet, and you can actually change the way that it opens. So I can jump back to that door, and we can change it to an auto left. Click OK to accept the change, and then we'll do that again for the cabinet next to it. Go back to the item, and then just to reinforce, we can change that to an auto left and click OK. One other thing I want to do is, now that I'm in here, I'm going to show you how we can modify some other components. So we're going to jump down to that door. Instead of changing it to a left door, let's add in some drawers. So we have the option to add in different components. We can go to drawer, and then within Home Designer Pro, we can even split this drawer horizontally. Within a couple quick clicks, we've designed a completely different cabinet. So let's exit out of this view, and then we'll take another camera view. You can zoom back out, just grab our camera tool, and then this time we'll take our camera view from this corner and click to drag it out. So we need to continue placing some additional base cabinets, and then we'll also continue adding in some wall cabinets as well. So we could place cabinets in 3D too. So we're just going to click here and place that cabinet, and then I want to open this up, and we're going to change the width here to 30. And let's also add in some drawers here. So we can go to the panel or click on the component, and then I'm going to change this to drawer, split it horizontally again, and click OK. And now that cabinet's been modified. I want to show you how we can also change cabinets drastically. So we're going to click to add in another cabinet, and then I'm going to select it to open it up. And this is where we're going to place our apron sink. So we need to modify this cabinet and change the height to 27, and then we're going to change the width here to 36. And we'll click tab to accept those changes. We're also going to need to remove the countertop, so I'll set this at 0. And now that has been adjusted. Let's get into our front panel, and I'm going to click on the component that I want to modify. So the item here, I want to change to a blank space, so blank area. And then we're going to specify the blank area at 2 inches and click tab. And now that cabinet has been adjusted. We'll click OK. See how it's been modified here in our 3D view. So now if we get back into our library items, we can grab our apron sink and click within our plan to place it. And you can see when I placed it, it's added it to our floor. So I'm going to need to modify this using a different view. Let's click on our floor plan view, and I'm going to click on my elevation tools. So I can take a wall elevation by just clicking within the plan and dragging it out, and this will show our wall elevation. It makes it a little bit easier for moving that apron sink on top of our cabinet. So I can move it up and then over to place it directly on top of that cabinet. You can even zoom in this view to get a better look at it, and I can see I just need to bump it over just a bit there, and now that's been adjusted. So from here, we can just close out of our elevation, or we can go back to our full camera, and then we can also bring down just two views. So if I wanted to work with my plan view and then also my camera view, I can just pull it down and I still have my elevation in case I need to use that in the future. So let's add in a few more base cabinets. So I'm just going to click to place that cabinet. And then from here, I want to add in a dishwasher. So I can go back to my library items, and then I can click directly on that cabinet. I can click also in my plan view here, and it will adjust. Let's rotate around our 3D view a bit. And then this time we're going to place one more base cabinet. And I want to show you how we can adjust full attributes rather quickly. We go up to our default tools. We have a tool on our default toolbar called an object eyedropper. We can click on the tool and then grab attributes from one cabinet and apply it to another cabinet without having to make any other changes. So that's a great tool to use to make it more efficient when it comes to designing. All right, let's get back into our plan view here and add in some wall cabinets. So we're going to go up to our cabinet tools and we'll scroll down to wall cabinet. And I can click again in the corner here to place a wall cabinet. And then I can quickly click within my plan to adjust the cabinets. So I want to select this cabinet and pull it back, and then we'll just continue on by grabbing the cabinet and adjusting it. Clicking again, we can just grab that tool. And let's rotate around our plan a little bit more again. So we'll grab our orbit tool and rotate around, and we need to place in our hood. So what I can do is get into my library options, grab our hood, and then click within my plan, and it's placed it, and now our hood's just kind of floating there. So what we need to do is select the hood and bring it back over our range. And from here I can see you can also click to grab it and then adjust the height if you want it to line up perfectly with your cabinet items like I do. Let's finish out this corner wall area by placing those additional wall cabinets. So we'll click on that cabinet tool. You can click on in plan view and then on that tool, and then I'm just going to adjust it. So I'll grab this cabinet and pull it out. And I forgot to mention that when you adjust cabinets, you can also see that if you expand it out, it will automatically bump it to a double door. And I'll just grab that, select it. You can click tab to grab that cabinet specifically, and then we just have one more wall cabinet to place over here in that corner, and I'm going to bump it back over, and then it places that filler in there. And then let's move back over to our adjacent wall. And then for this one, let's modify the width here. We're going to change it to 30. Double click to open it up, change the width here to 30, click enter, and now that's been adjusted. I'm going to close out of my library browser again to free up some real estate, and then we're just going to rotate or orbit around our plan so we can view our wall again, so we can make some changes over here. And to bring in a window, we need to go back to our default toolbar and click on our window options. So within the software, you can choose between a regular window, a bay window, box window, bow window, or pass through. I'm going to click on just my window, my standard window, and then I'm going to bring it into my plan here. So I can just click and it'll add in a window. And then we can double click to open up our window and we can change it. We can change the wall type. Right now we're using our default window, but I'll modify it to a fixed glass window. If you wanted to make any adjustments to the width, in fact, let's change this to 30. You can click tab and then it'll also adjust your height if you wanted to add in a different height. You can also specify your floor to top as well as floor to bottom. You have many different options within our window panels. So you can modify casing, lintels, sash, sills, frames. I'm going to go and add in some lights. We'll click to add in 2 lights and then add 2 vertically. And I'll click OK just so we can accept those changes and see how our window has adjusted. So now that our window is placed, I can even move it over my sink if I'd like. And you can even use your arrow keys. So right now my window is selected. I'm going to use my arrow key on my keyboard and just move it over to where I want it to be placed. I can make a copy of it by going down to my edit toolbar. We have copy tools. Can click to copy, and then you can reflect it if you like, or you can just click next to the window to place another window. So now I have two windows placed, and it's really lightening up my kitchen. So let's get into that elevation that we took before. So I can just click on that tab, and we can continue on by adding in some shelving. So to do this, we'll go back up to our default tools, click on our cabinet options, and then we're going to specify a shelf. So I'll click on that shelf, and then I can bring it over in my elevation view and just click within that view to apply that shelf. Now you can also open up the shelf for specification. So I'm going to double click here to modify it, and I'm going to change the height here to 2 inches. And if you wanted to modify the width, the depth, this is where you would change that, as well as the floor to top and floor to bottom. You can add in moldings, a fill style, change your materials, and your label. We'll click OK to accept this change. And then I also want to get back into my Transform Replicate tool. Can click on that Edit toolbar, open it up, and select Copy. I'm going to make 2 copies here. And this time I'm going to move them on the Z delta. So I'm going to specify these at 1 foot apart, and now that's been modified. So now I want to show you how we can place objects within our plan here on top of our cabinets, as well as those shelves that we just added in. So I'm going to select my elevation view, and then I'm just going to hold down my mouse, and I can actually pan further over so I get a better view of where I want to place some of my items. And then what we need to do is open up our library browser again. Control L will bring that browser up, and then we can grab different components. So I've brought in an espresso machine. If I click within the plan, it's going to show that my furniture or that furniture interior item is not displayed. So this is where we can manage our display options as well. So we want to turn it on. We're going to click yes, and then that will bring that library object to the forefront. So I can click on that espresso machine and just pull it into place. So I'm going to bring it up, and then I'm going to pull it over, and it'll slide right into where I need it to be. We can also add in some bowls that I've pre-blocked together, and I can just grab those, and then I can place them either in my plan view or back here in my elevation view. I'm going to click in my plan view, and we can see where they are now. So this is where it's great to work in several different views. We can see that they're not above our cabinets or on our shelves, and then they're floating also in our elevation view. So the first thing I'm going to do is click on those bowls to select them, and I'm just going to bring them up. And then you can use your arrow keys on the keyboard to position those where you'd like them to be. So I just have them exactly where I want, and then I'm going to grab them here in my plan view and then pull them back along my shelf. So the next thing I want to do is I have some coffee mugs that I want to bring in. So we're going to do the same thing just to reiterate basically what we've done so far. So let's just grab those mugs, click in my plan view here, and then I'm also going to click to select them, and I'm just going to move them up and over, and then I'll use those arrow keys to line them up there, and we can also see that we need to bring them back along our wall there. And then those last items that we want to bring in are just our coffee cups. So I'll click, add them into our plan, select the coffee cup, and move them back over and down, and then grab them here and move them along. So at this point we can now close out of our elevation view. We'll get back into our 3D view, and I can see that my wall here looks a little plain. I want to add some more definition to it. So this is a good time to add in our custom backsplash. So we're going to go back up to our tools, and we're going to click on our custom backsplash tool. And we can see in this view that it's not selected. We have to be in our 3D view and then go to our wall tools, click on custom backsplash, and then I can click on the wall that I want to add it. You have the option to modify, so you have edit handles here where you can drag that backsplash to where you need it to be. You can also open it up, so we can open it up by going down to our edit tools and clicking on that door there, and this is where you can modify the material layers. So you can select the thickness, you can get in here and click edit. That's where you would change the layer if you wanted to make it thicker, or if you wanted to make it a little bit more thin as well. You can also select the material. So right now we're in our library materials, and we can go down and pick a different type of tile if we'd like, and just for the effect here we'll click desk tile and click OK, and then select OK as well, and OK. We can see that it has been updated. So we can also add this backsplash on the other wall here. So I can click again, and now it will be applied. And just to get an idea of what it looks like on this wall, we can rotate around, and now we can see that we have two different backsplashes. So I'm actually going to grab my material eyedropper, and I'm going to grab the material from one wall, and then we're going to paste it onto that other backsplash. And now it's been adjusted. So let's add some more texture to our ceiling here. So we're going to grab our select material tool. I can get into plan materials, or I can get into my library materials. Within Home Designer Pro, we have the option, if we've used different plan materials, that we can select them rather quickly, or we can just get back into our library materials. And I'm going to get into my folder, and I've created a materials folder for our presentation today, and I'm going to select my white tongue and groove and click OK. And now I can spray the tongue and groove on top of my ceiling, and we're adding a little bit more definition. So let's orbit around our plan, and I can see that my shelves look a little plain here. So I can grab a material that I've used and just apply it. And all I'm doing is clicking to apply that material, and now my shelves are updated. I'm going to move along my plan by holding down my mouse, and we're just going to pan over so we can move further along the wall. And I'm going to close out, or I can actually, let's just minimize this library so we can get a little bit more of our wall exposed, and then we can even rotate back to our orbit tool so we can highlight that as well. So I want to show you how you can use tools in a variety of different ways. We've just placed our custom backsplash, but I'm going to grab that tool again. And since our custom backsplash tool was the last one we used within the category, it's already selected. So I can just click on it and then click on my wall. And I'm actually going to add a painting. So all I'm going to do is click to drag it out, and we can see now that there's a backsplash on the wall. If I want to get in here and grab my happy cow, I can click and paste it, and now I have a painting on this wall. And I can also open up the object, and we can see that the material layer is set at a 1/2 inch. And as I showed you before, this is where we can change the thickness. So I'll set this at 2 inches, and we'll click OK. So this is where I want to click to add in my kitchen table. I'll just click within my plan to apply it, and then we'll get back into both of our views. So Shift F6 to tile 2 views, and if you want to move your kitchen table at all, you can grab it from this location. You can move it in your plan view. We'll actually just rotate around our plan here. So we're going to grab that orbit tool and just rotate around because I want to place in an island. So we're going to actually get back into our cabinet tools. We'll go up to our default toolbar, grab a base cabinet, and then we're just going to click to bring it into our plan. And we can see it's facing out. I'm going to rotate it around so that we can add in a few more cabinets here. So I'm just going to grab another base cabinet here, bring it into the plan, and then I'm going to use that object eyedropper to grab attributes from one cabinet, bring it in and apply it to the other. And that has actually stacked those two cabinets. So we need to select it and then pull it out. And then we'll also make another copy of the cabinet that I have here. So I'm going to grab that cabinet, and then we're going to go down to our edit toolbar, copy it, and then reflect it. Actually, let's grab that reflect tool and reflect it on the other side of the cabinet. And right now I'll marquee around all three of my cabinets. So I'm multi-selecting. This is an option available in Home Designer Pro. And I'm going to make a copy of it again, and then we're going to reflect around the object here. And so now we have an island that's been designed. I want to add in a sink that I've added to my library here, and I'll just click on the plan to place it, and that finishes out our island. Now our island is just kind of in the middle of our kitchen here. I want to dimension it out. So this is another instance where I'm going to multi-select. So I'll grab my select object tool, marquee around to grab all of those components. You can even block it together so it becomes one architectural block, and then at this point you can add it to your library. I'll add it in here and then I can name it. I'll type in island, and now I can use it again in the future. It's already pre-designed and ready to go. Okay, so let's click on our block here and then dimension it. So we have our dimensioning tools available in our default toolbar. You can select between fully editable dimensions in Home Designer, Architectural, and Professional. So we'll click to grab a manual dimension, but just be aware we do have end-to-end dimensions, angular dimensions, interior. You can use your tape measure, your auto dimensioning objects as well. So I'm going to grab that dimension and then just click to drag it out. Then I'll select my island by clicking on it and then on the dimension, and I'm going to change this to 4 feet even. And then I'm also, as it's selected now, I want to center it within my room, so I'll grab that center object tool and then click to add it to the middle. Okay, so with that created, we'll exit out of this view and we're going to take another camera view. As we've added an architectural block to our library, I also want to show you how we can place an architectural block. So let's click Shift F6 to tile 2 views here, and I'll pull down my plan view and I'm going to grab my kitchen block and place it. So these are items that I have created of cabinets. Since we've spent a lot of time designing out our cabinets, I just decided to bring those in already blocked together, and then I can move it along that wall. And now it's placed exactly where I want it to be. So that was a quick example of how you can just bring in an architectural block and continue designing within your plan. Okay, so let's rotate along this wall. And I can see that I have some open space here. So we're going to add in a door. We have different door tools available just as we have window tools, and we can access our door tools on our default toolbar. We can select between a hinge door, a doorway, sliding door, pocket door, bifold door, or even a garage door. I'm going to add a sliding door that'll lead out to our backyard and just click and apply it to my plan. And now that's been updated. So I'll exit out of my library browser again, and this time I want to enlarge my kitchen view so that we can make some material adjustments. Now that I've made adjustments to some of my other materials within my plan, my cabinets are kind of overpowering the space being white. What we can do here is get back into our spray can, and I can open up, this will bring up our library browser in another way. Again, we showed this a little bit earlier, but I just want to kind of re-emphasize how we can utilize it. So what I'm going to do is just type in a color. So I can type color, and then I'm going to choose do, and it's going to bring up this blue color that I'd like to use on my cabinet. So I'll click OK. And then I can click on my spray can and then on the cabinet. And I want to show you down in the edit toolbar, we have a couple different options for pasting. So right now I have component mode selected. When I click on that cabinet, it's just going to change a particular part of the cabinet because I only have component mode selected. If I click on object mode, you're going to notice that the entire cabinet has been updated. And from here, I can click on room mode and update all the cabinets within my kitchen with just a click. If you click on floor mode, you can basically update everything, all the cabinets for this particular floor, or even plan mode. So if you have additional cabinets maybe in a bathroom, it makes it really nice to update items within a click. So one other tool I'd like to show is our adjust material definition tool. You can access it on a default toolbar. So I've clicked on that tool and now I'm going to click on the material I want to adjust. So right now we have our cabinets that are really bright. This color came across a little darker than I want it to be in my plan. So I can actually get in here and modify. If I want to stick with maybe the same shade, just adjust the hue, I can drag it back and we can lighten up those cabinets quite a bit. So I can click OK. And if you want to change anything with the shading contrast or material type, you can do so here. You can also adjust the pattern, the texture, or even properties of a material. So if you want to adjust, brightness, shininess, change the transparency or emissiveness, you can do that. These tools are really great. For example, if we were going to adjust the material within our beams, you can really get in here and modify as you need. So we'll click OK to accept the changes. And now you can see our cabinets are going to adjust in color. So let's exit out of this view. And we're going to create our electrical plan. So we can take a different camera view by clicking on a camera tool. We'll just click and drag out. And this is a great opportunity to design in both of our views again. So Shift F6 on the keyboard, tile those views, and then we'll drag in here just a bit. And now I want to add in some lighting. So the default within the program is to automatically light a space unless we add in some of our own lighting. So we can see that it will adjust as we continue to do so. What I want to do is expose my beams again. So I'm going to go to my layer display options, and then I'm going to get into my cabinet soffit options and display them. And the reason I'm going to do this is because we're going to place in some lighting and I'll use this as a guide. So we'll go up to our electrical tools. There are a couple different ways of accessing our electrical items. We can go to the build tab and then we can scroll down to electrical, and this will give us options for placing outlets, lights, switches. We can auto place outlets and then connect our electrical. I'm going to click on a light. And then I'm just going to click in my plan to apply that light. And now we can see that that light is now adjusted and the lighting in the plan has adjusted as I said it would do so. We'll select the light and then we're going to go down to our transform replicate tool and I'm going to make a couple copies here. Let's make 4 copies and this time we're going to place them on the Y delta and I'm going to put a negative number in. And I'm going to specify this at 45 inches and then we'll click OK. And you can see that the lighting has adjusted for our plan. So I'm going to hold Control and I'm going to grab that last light and we're going to copy these lights and reflect them within our plan. So we'll just get in here and reflect them over. This is a quick way of displaying our lighting. And let's open up our library browser, Control L. And I have added a few additional lights to my library components here. So we're just going to grab our island light first and we'll drop this in. So I have some pendant lights and I'll just click within my plan to drop those in. And then I can just slide down and click again. We can also open up these lights for specification, so we're able to change our light data. So I'm going to grab one of these lights, hold Control to select the other light, and then open it up. And I want to show you within our dialog here, you can change the position of your light. You can specify the height, the width, the depth. You can get into the light data. And right now it is a point light, but if you wanted to modify it to a spotlight or parallel light, this is where you would do so. You can change the intensity. So right now it's at 1200 lumens, which is pretty bright for this space. So we can tone it down to 200. You can also specify different color options as well. Click OK, and then that will adjust. If you wanted to change other positioning options, this is where you would modify. Right now we have our light on and we have it to cast shadows within our plan. So let's just click OK. The lighting data will update there. So I want to take another elevation. We'll get back into our elevation tool here and then click within our plan to add in our lighting. And we have another light option that I have selected, and this is my sconce. So I'll click to place it within my plan. It's already selected, so what I can do is just click again and drop it in, and then click again, and we have another light. And if you want to center those or change anything, that's where you can do so. So we'll exit out of this elevation view, and we'll close out of our library browser and finish off our electrical plan. So let's access our electrical tools, this time on our default toolbar. I am going to grab my outlet. So I can click within my plan to just place a few more outlets. And now we have outlets placed. We can go access our tools again. This time I'm going to add some switches into my plan here. So I'll just click and drag. We can even add in another switch next to our existing switch. And we can add a switch over on the other wall if we need. And then you can get into your connect electrical. So this is where we can connect our electrical by grabbing it this way and adding in here. And now I'm just going around my plan to connect those lights. And that will place a three-way switch. And then we can connect the lights over our sink here to our switch. And now we've generated a quick electrical plan with just a few different clicks in the software. Now that our lighting's completed, I want to take a few minutes to show you rendering options within the software. So to render, we can go up to our 3D tab. And if you wanted to adjust anything else within your lighting, this is where you can also access those adjust tools. I thought I'd point those out since we're already in this view. But we can also slide down to camera view options and take a final view and a final view with shadows. If I click on final view with shadows, it's going to smooth out my plan, and then you'll also see those shadows adjust. We can also go up to our default toolbar and select between different options. So you can choose between a vector view. You also have the option to select a glass house view. This is great when designing a kitchen because you can see within your cabinets, you can see your shelving. It makes it really nice for accessing those type of options. You can also take a technical illustration and even a watercolor. And these are options, these more advanced options are available with just Home Designer Architectural and Professional. And then you even have a technique options tab where you can adjust the amount that you smooth, the paint contrast. It's really great to get in here and make modifications to that overall view. So we'll take one last view here. We'll get back into that standard view. And then we'll toggle back over to our floor plan. I'm going to click to select my room, and then we're going to go up to the Tools tab down to Materials List so we can generate a materials list. Within the software, you can calculate from all floors for a particular room or from an area. Since we just designed a kitchen today, I'm just going to click for room. And now we have a materials list for this room that's been generated. So you can scroll through here and see that the software works great for combining this materials list for objects that we've generated. For cabinets, for example, you can see that the size is specified, you get a count, and then you can even add in pricing if you wish. You can also export a materials list within the software. All of our programs will export text files, but within Pro you can do a CSV, XML, as well as an HTML. And we'll click cancel for now, and then we'll also exit out of this view. So we're not going to save it today, so we're just going to click don't save. So there's one more item I'd like to show before we close today, and that is how to create a layout sheet within the software. To do this, we'll go up to the File tab and then down to New Layout, and this will open up our layout sheet. On our layout, you can specify your designer information, the project, the title sheet. You can even add your logo, and then you can set your date, scale, and sheet number. You have text tools at the top of the screen as well as CAD tools that'll help define this space. Let's go back to our floor plan. We're going to take an elevation view. So I'll go up to my default tools, and then we're going to grab that wall elevation, and then I'm just going to click in my plan, drag out that camera, and we're going to dimension in this elevation view so we can send it to our layout sheet. So I'm going to zoom out of here just a bit. We'll go to our dimensioning tools. I'm going to double click to open up our dimensioning defaults. Here's where you can specify your line separation, the reach. You also have control over your automatic dimensions as well. We're going to skip down to our Format tab. Right now it's set in feet and inches. I want to specify our dimensions in inches. And then you have the ability to also change the accuracy. So you can specify how many decimal places you want to show within your plans. I'm going to go down to Locate Objects, and here's where you can choose where your dimensions will locate. Right now under Cabinets, we have dimensions locating to the sides and corners. I'm going to click to deselect corners. And then I'm going to go down to Furniture, and I don't want it to locate to my centers, or under Other Objects, I don't want my dimensions to locate to electrical. So we'll click there and then click OK to accept these changes. And then we're going to go back up to our dimensioning tools, and I'm going to take a end-to-end dimension first. So I'll just grab it across my plan, and then I'm going to click to select the dimension, and then we'll just drag it down. And let's zoom out just a little bit more so we have a little more working space here. And I'll pull down that dimension, and then we'll go grab one more dimension, and this time we're going to do a manual dimension. So I'm just going to click within my plan to drag out that dimension, and then I can grab the dimension and actually pull it down. And then I can see I didn't dimension out in the corner space, so I'm going to click on that dimension. I'll get a diamond here, and then I'm going to bring it up to my corner. We'll click OK to accept that we've basically dimensioned to the cross line. We'll click OK here, and we can also set the scale here, or I should say the number height. Right now it's set at 6 inches. I'm going to modify this to 3, so we're changing the default here, and then we'll click OK, and this will definitely clean up our dimension there. And we'll want to do the same for our manual dimension, so it's set at that 6-inch default. We'll set it at 3 so that it can be consistent, and then we'll click OK. And so now what we want to do is actually send this view to our layout sheet. So we're going to go to File, Send to Layout, and this will bring up our Send to Layout dialog where you can modify the position, your send options, your camera view options. You can even scale it. So we have it set at 1/4 of an inch equals a foot. We can even modify this if we'd like to 1/2 inch. And we'll click OK to accept these changes. And then this view will be sent to our layout sheet. Once we get it to our layout sheet, we can move it around. You can hold Control. This will give you a little bit more flexibility there. I want to show you how we can also get back to our camera view, for example, and we can send this view to layout. So just go to File, Send to Layout, and it'll bring up that Send to Layout page as well. You won't scale this view since it's a perspective view, So we'll click OK, but I can show you that when we get it to our layout sheet, you can modify this image if you like by bringing in the handles and adjusting it to where you need it to be. So I want to take a minute and say thank you. This concludes our presentation today. On our website, you can learn more about Home Designer software. This is where you can find our different product options, so you can choose between professional, architectural, suite, interiors. We even have a product chooser, and this is where you can compare side by side all the detailed tools that are available within each product offering. If we go back up to our products tab, you can download a free trial version of any of our programs. And then if we scroll over to User Center, here's where you'll find our training videos, our knowledge base. If you click here, we can get into cabinets, for example. These are how-to articles, step by step, that'll walk you through creating different features within the program. For example, we spent a lot of time using cabinets, and here is a great how-to article on creating a custom backsplash. If we go back up to our User Center, you can see we have a samples gallery. This is a great area to spend some time looking at pre-designed plans and get some ideas and inspiration. You can also click on our catalog and content download page. We've added many additional features that can be added into your Home Designer program. So if you really want to customize your plan, this is a great area to download additional content. So let's go back to our website here, and I want to scroll down to the bottom of our page, and this is where you'll find our social media icons. So you can click on our Home Talk user form icon to connect with other Home Designer users. You can also go to our Facebook page, and we have a House page, as well as YouTube, where we have many different videos that we update to keep our content nice and fresh. And I just wanted to reiterate, we do have that free trial version available. I highly suggest downloading a trial version of our software. We also offer a 30-day satisfaction guarantee, so if you do decide to purchase and you're not satisfied within that time, feel free to return. We will help you out during that time. If you own an older version of Home Designer, we do have upgrade discounts available, so feel free to contact us at any time and we'll assist you with an upgrade. We also have those training videos as well as those how-to help articles, and Home Talk is a great place to connect with additional users. So thanks again for attending. We'll be around here for the next few moments to wrap up chatting. If you have any questions, be sure to get those in right away, and have a wonderful day.